are that way, man. I 100% like so when I discovered
I look forward to it.
I haven't either.
You want when you put something that people don't want to touch.
The bump was good. It was a nice, more than I expected for
I
sure.
know,
So
that's
that was
when
really
you're
nice.
stuck in the plastic. And I can
What's your title?
I am now in marketing
you just
communications
gotta
manager.
keep that.
What were you before?
love
I was the
Even
marketing communications
even myself
coordinator.
like when I
Yeah.
Pretty soon.
perform,
I always describe you as marketing.
like I do okay
Director.
on Zoom, but like the thing
So I'm
is,
overshooting.
I'm in my
Yeah,
own
but there's
office.
only one
It's like somebody's
person
in my
or two people
house.
in our
Like, it's
building
all
who
just
have
very,
director titles, and
you
those
know,
are executive
you don't
and
kind of go into that performance mode the way that,
Everybody
that
else
I want to.
has either
It's just all a
manager,
little
coordinator, or
weird still.
specialist.
And I like the online thing. I like
That
putting
only
a lot of
matters.
things in different places,
Those
but
titles only matter.
the energy is
I'll
just
grab you a
different.
bottle of
That's true.
Yeah, I've had a few
They
online
matter to our
things that
grant
have been
funders
really
too.
good.
So
It's few and far between. I mean, you could say the same thing about live readings, but I could do 100 live readings a year. And And now
So
coming back and doing
oversee
just like a
all the
handful,
roadways.
still it's taking some adjustment, but I'd rather be doing this.
And
Yeah, I'm
I,
100% with you.
have been staff-
How's it going, man? Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Good, you know.
Then
Got the
I,
new book out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking it on the road and stuff. So,
How often do you have to evaluate this?
you're doing a residency down here.
Oh,
When did it start?
Oh my god.
Today.
Yeah.
we go with checkpoints though.
Now.
You're never not good.
Yeah.
It's very true. But they're really
Do
easy.
you have a
Like,
project
so
that you're
one of our
trying
core
to?
Yeah.
checkpoints is literally like
Yeah, so I do.
on a scale of 1 to 5 where you see fitting yourself into your current position. It has a description of it. And you literally just circle it when you talk about it, and that's about it.
I have several hundred of
Like
them,
20 minutes.
and I have an envelope that I've been keeping all these
The ones that
years.
take the longest are like we have one that's called a stay interview instead of an
So
exit.
I'm like, look at it.
That's really cool. That's a very cool concept.
I'm gonna do a lot of transcribing and stuff
That we
in
can
order.
fix and keep you from leaving.
Probably a big part is
That's awesome.
trying to put stuff in order.
Because it probably does work.
Transcribe the majority of them.
You usually find out a lot of like
This one, the
Well, and that's why at your award ceremony,
probably like
people get
50 or
decade
60.
awards.
People
And
have for
been here for 20 years in this person.
we have somebody hitting
It was a
45.
crew of people.
That's really cool.
To
I'm
research.
like, dude, so do you still go out and
She's
do
funny.
I just did it last night, yeah.
I want I want to see that in action sometime.
It's great. I might do some here.
Yeah, she's hitting.
Like sometime this week while I'm here.
That would be fantastic. If nothing, you should have somebody
She
like
started when she was
live stream it
18.
for a little bit or something.
Sure.
Take a little video because I have never honestly I know about it and it's like so intriguing. It would be very intimidating for me to try to do, but at the same time I think it's super
saying
A
that
friend of
the
mine
coolest.
he was
wrote a chapter
there,
of his
like an
dissertation
intern in high school
Yeah.
or something like that. I think I remember
Yeah,
that.
she was a
Yeah.
best of all, and then
and worked with him last night.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Well, I hope that you do something here, and I hope that it makes it, out in the world. Because I really want to see how that
Or
that
Will.
goes.
Where would be
Or,
the
William.
to do it? It's great if it's like just like a traffic race where
Yeah.
people come
Did he
and
contact
go.
you?
yeah.
Good.
Messaged me asking if they had position. We
Because
don't
I
have
told
anything
him.
open in housing.
Yeah,
Okay,
But he was
This thing
saying
last night was his first Friday. This place is in
I
Indianapolis.
saw your
Convention
posting.
Center.
Is it like for 3
It's
like
a-
week
We have
left?
4.
It's a maze. It's a
Yeah, we have
giant
I
mean, to the
complex.
best of your
So
ability.
the
You know,
buildings are all
everybody makes
connected.
mistakes.
And
Really, it's
probably 30 different artists.
Because I know he's worked at
studios.
He's worked in
No,
social services.
galleries that are all shared
Down in
galleries.
St. Jude.
Probably 10 gallery spaces. And
He's between
you get lost trying to find them. You've got lost trying to find
Caleb.
That's like the about as close as you can get as
This
poets
is
to like
like
shape
Well, yeah, autocorrect does its own thing too.
You know,
It's it's kind of perfect. It's kind of perfect.
Or something like that too.
Because the deal is,
No, we just have the 4 positions open right now.
people and it's
So I said, call her right now because
15 or 20 minutes.
I said, back on.
Sound like you might have been a teacher.
Yeah, they're still-
Especially if
they're
like
Yeah,
good.
I was starting to
Unfortunately, we get a lot of applications. that
Yeah.
are like,
walk around thinking about what they're gonna get.
I currently work in a gas station.
It's a good way to use a residency to finish something off like that.
Yeah.
That's instead of being kind
Which if we
of
could hire people like that, they'd be senior
messy
assistants and
buildings
have
where you don't
I'm not
know.
but
creating.
the
I'm not,
position
I'm
being
not
filled
trying
right
to.
now.
I mean, I've got some stuff I want to write too,
Funders
but
require
that's the
so
first
much
thing. Is
contribution.
to
Yeah.
get that done.
That's what I've been trying to do this book
No, I just said he's been out there in that
for
world.
a while. We've been talking about that for a while.
Yeah, he said he was gonna try and apply for one of our CDS positions.
For a weekend. I was like, I gotta, and I took nothing.
Is
with me,
Bonnie
like,
back from?
literally made the food at the restaurant downstairs in the hotel and stayed there for 48 hours and was like,
I'm
now
really
is the time. When it's gonna walk out of here, we're delivering it, like, you gotta get this thing done, So it was, what is it, so I don't know your family situation, but I got 2 kids.
And that's only
So I've
because
got 2 little kids.
I can do a lot of training, but
13-year-old
me,
me,
when I'm in
Yeah.
that room,
So,
10-year-olds now
committee,
acting
they're
like
just,
13-year-olds. And I
you
was
know, love me
working
to death, but
with
they're
Right,
never
but the
gonna
drama
with
is
me
Right.
when I'm there.
Right.
And so it's like, this is never going to
Yeah.
It's not like, so for me, I can write poetry and snippets,
creator of
and I can see them, but finishing something requires sustained
But for me,
thought. To get into its final
Yeah,
form.
and that's
It's
great.
like,
They're
just
on
to I was,
I typically want to go back and refresh my memory about the student and see what he wants of me.
Pushing me a
Can't
little
do
bit
that.
to, step it up a little bit.
It's just not ready for that. So I don't want to be
I
in the
do,
room
I play
and
an improv group in
do not do the best service I can.
yeah.
And so that's my obstacle. And I know that Jan and Bonnie have tried to.
And so improv is something that I do, I'm used to just going with it, thinking on my feet and those sort of things, and trying to apply that to a book.
But you know, it's anything with you the first go round.
And Jason's always doing work and start asking me to dress.
But that's why I want a hard copy.
They started looking like being disrespectful.
I need to print some stuff out for
You
you.
have 100
Yeah,
pages.
we talked to this
I
way.
said, I will
That's
get you
good.
100 pages.
As I predicted,
Because at the time I had a
you were so nice and polite and you didn't ruin my.
Well, I don't mean to be, I
It's
don't
not
want
on
to
you,
write
it's on
it,
me.
so,
No
you know,
worries.
but yeah,
like 2 months,
so
2 or 3
I
months. I didn't write
Curiosity,
everything,
Yeah,
but
I was.
curiosity.
like finished it, found pieces and put it all
My
together.
younger siblings are 13 and 16 years younger than me.
Continue to
So
edit them.
I kind
It's
of.
just like you said, just kind of take the
What
time.
check did you out?
Yeah, I do, right, you can find, you can
No,
find
actually, I
ways
just
to
want to know
delay.
the number.
We finish.
I'm more interested in the number
How many books is
itself,
that?
like,
And that's really kind of a
You know, that's awesome.
And then we gotta work it out, right?
This has been good for me,
So I'm
because
gonna
I'm doing something totally different for a while, and I might do a couple of totally different things.
Everything's
So I was
and
able to
then I got a
remove,
quick
Well, they
you
didn't
know,
say
Jason
that's
has
my
told me about that
from
before. He's
previous
like,
collections.
you don't really know, and then
And
you
I
don't
also
really know
like
how
that
much
it's
to
kind
know
of, I like
because they haven't really
that it's in under one cover.
And then the
And
check
so,
shows up.
you know, if people wanna really get to know over
It's kinda
time,
weird.
they can buy this one book and it's gonna give them, you know, a good sense of how to present myself as a poet. But also like,
You're gonna scream and
it's a
holler.
good chapter closer for me for a little bit. I'm a singer-songwriter in Seattle.
Yeah,
Small
he does,
town,
he knows how to
he's kind of teaching
No, I'm just
along
screaming,
the
I'm
way,
just screaming
as
at
well
the,
as, you know,
at
he
the
kind of
bunch
really
of
drive. He's an excellent
I like to
songwriter,
think
you know,
they got
everything
feelings
you know
about
about
it.
structure, excellent melodies, all these kind of things. You know, I don't really write about anymore. Well, I got that covered, you know, and so we've been teaching you to structure songs and stuff, and I've been providing
Forget that
really
you published it.
strong work.
Forget that you published it.
Yeah, stuff that can mold
Oh,
into
yeah, I'll get
good
it.
songs. And so, and then I'm actually thinking about doing like a really
Oh,
good work, children's work. So I'm a K-12 librarian. And over time, like I developed a sense of
all kinds of
how far you can stretch stuff with kids, but you can still kind of keep it within the realm of, you know, you're not creepy. You know what I mean? And so, you know, you learn that to entertain kids, and then you come to a huge collection of stories. And this is really my only way that I improvise, to be honest with you. And it's, I they'll ask for a story. And so, you know, once a month or so, we've got some time like in their library class. I'm like, all right, I'll tell you a story. And I just start, and I give myself 10 minutes, and I just make up whatever situation is, and then it's got to resolve.
especially
Something, of course,
receiving
has
end
a
of
huge
it.
plot. But every once in a while, you go, holy cow, like that actually worked out really well. So I'm gonna take some of the really good ones that the kids ask for, like, can you tell that one again? And I'm gonna try to make it into an extremely more children's book for kind of middle grades. You know? So
They do the
I'm
same
excited
thing in
about that.
Chinese school.
So it's really nice to
Toughen you up when people
to
wanna.
have like, to stamp this thing and go and do like a tour with it and stuff. And then when I'm done and put it down, I say, okay, I've worked those poems, I gave
Yeah,
them
but
for
it's
people.
also, no, you are,
And I
you're
no regrets, I
when
can do something
you're a
fresh.
photographer. So they were always like, they're
Oh.
really trying to make you, like, give you some tough skin, because people are going to not want you in their face, if it's an emergency.
So did you drive? Yeah. How long was it?
People that want you asking hard questions. So their way of
It's actually
saying, like,
not,
this is just a
that's really not that bad,
and
to be honest.
I
Especially if you're here for
teaching us what we need to know. We don't get the tough skin on our own. We don't need you to try and give it to us.
You know, and a lot of those things, especially in law school, a lot of you say they're doing that. They couldn't put their ass in either end of the
Yeah.
I've never done a trial. Look at our Supreme Court.
It's not my favorite highway, but you know.
They're not trial law.
Always.
I've never tried cases.
Hardly any this time, so.
When they're in Jackson.
You know, when we go into the mountains, you know, we'll go.
She's a federal judge,
to
right?
Denver.
But she is now, but she started out as a federal public defender.
You know, well, the worst part is actually getting to Colorado, because you're like, this is Colorado. All this work, and then you're like, no, wait, sorry, you know, it's in Colorado, it's the same thing. For, you know,
Something that I can pull up.
so,
I went through my computer.
Yeah.
I have like all the data, but then apps, they do some little changes for whatever reason, and
I
then
don't know.
suddenly I can't do it.
Aspect of it.
I knew it
John,
wouldn't be
what,
earth
what are you looking for time-wise from us?
These are legit.
Yeah,
sales.
like 20 minutes ahead.
The wrong code was entered. I didn't say
It makes me very happy just to have it published.
All right, everybody. I guess we're rolling here.
I'm gonna be on it. There's no reason. You don't mind how the baby-
All right. Like to welcome everybody back tonight. I hope we have like 2 or 3 really exciting things this evening. I hope that some more people like come in slowly. But we have 2 readers for the evening besides the open mic. Tony Brewer, who is the author of the first book on Gasconade Press, Pity for Sale, that Jason and I published recently. And I'm sure, I know most of you guys were here. Tony was here last July, as was Justin Hamm, who is here this evening as well with his new book. And he has also brought himself a Guinness to drink. Right?
Yes, so this is drinking Guinness with the dead, and I'm gonna drink 1 Guinness with the living to celebrate, because this is the first live reading since the book release, so.
Like I said, I'm a pessimist. You're drinking Guinness with the future dead.
Yes, it's true, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
But, so it's great to have both of you guys here. Justin was here in July too. I was just telling him that June 4th, we're going to be doing another large event here, kind of on that scale, where we're going to have a large amount of readers. We will, when we do that, there will be no intermission again, even if it's swelteringly hot. You can just go when you want to. But it's wonderful to have these guys back. They both made a trip to be here. Tony is here for the next week as an Osage Arts Community resident. So we welcome him on that level too. And hopefully after a week, you don't run for the hills, you come back. But it's good to have you, man.
Yeah, good to be here.
And as your punishment for getting here after 6 o'clock, I had already decided that you were going to read first.
I'm going first, okay, very good.
But so that's just what I do to people. But I've already sort of introduced these guys, so I'm just going to welcome up Tony Brewer. But I will say that, Tony, are you president of the Bloomington Writers Guild?
I'm treasurer.
Okay.
I've been the president, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm kind of co-president right now.
Well, you're involved in a number of activities, and my brain is too fried to remember them all. But Tony Brewer, it's great to see you. Come on up here and read us some poems.
It's like 6 hours from Bloomington, which is not bad. Actually, I'm gonna stand. I'll take it since I've been sitting for 6 hours.
6 hours of anticipation for you to get here.
So brand new book, and I was just telling Justin, I was in a car with John. We were driving back from Kansas City last summer, and he was talking about the Gasconade Press, and invited me. He said, "Would you want to submit a manuscript?" I said, "That'd be awesome. I'd love to. Thank you so much." How big a book were we talking about? He said, "Do you have 100 pages of poems?" And I said, I will get you 100 pages of poems, and they're all mine too. So
You didn't even have to steal those.
I know, yeah. So it was good. I've been trying to like work faster as I approach Oblivion. I've been trying to work faster because I usually do like 4 or 5 years between books, and I put out 3 in the last 2 years. So it's weird. So I have mixed feelings about it, but I'm thrilled to have this one out because it's got, it's got a lot of stuff from the first year of lockdown, plus some stuff that goes back a couple of decades. So let's start with an older one. This is Wake. When I was 20, my friends and I agreed that should the earth try to shake us loose and slough civilization like dead skin cells, in the dark anarchy following, we'd meet in Indianapolis at the foot of the great gray block coffin of the war memorial there. From the air, it looks like a sarcophagus, and down the street, the soldiers and sailors monument in an Egyptian Roman arrangement with European scales and swords, and then there's us, out of places to hide. Surely still standing even after we all get scattered, but not romantic like Ash, more like a zombie movie or The Day After. Some of us so far away we can't ever come back. Lost children see things, ghosts, the future, through walls. The logic of those many steps and columns reactivating a phantom sense of war pride for the first Gulf War, which did not exist unless you were watching it live. I don't have any friends anymore I don't want to keep in my apocalypse, my patriarchal downfall, my bug-out bag survivalist trip. And when the big one does come, you'll find me lounging in the rubble, reading anything left and breathing in the final air, though I'll probably take up smoking again, waiting for all my friends. I like this one because I workshopped this with a group of junior high kids that I was doing a workshop with a few years ago. This is called Breaking the Lines. They had some really good suggestions. So, Breaking the Lines. Workshopping poems has a way of flattening native tongues into it is a delicate procedure. Peel back the meaning to expose disordered bits, then excise with pretend precision. There are books to consult outlining ways of accomplishing this, where laying bare are problems and concern for solving language unenergized. Oh, we need not jumpstart the poem as an interrogator might clip cables to tender skin, shocking for truth that could be anything. Only please make it stop. But systems of education inside systems of industry, inside military systems, coiled like a cobra in a basket of government, is how we expect a tribe to behave inside its arbitrary lines. Don't be surprised when they talk openly of bringing you down. Here's a lot of these sort of, a lot of the poems in here kind of take the form of vignettes. They're not necessarily things that really happened, although there's a lot of things that did actually happen in here. I really liked what John wrote a blurb, or asked him to write a blurb for it, and called them small acts of magic, which I really liked because they're not magic tricks, not illusions. They're just like, they just conjure little things in your brain. And then we move on to something else. Here's something else. This is Elon Musk is not vegan, but Teslas are. We rounded a turn, and there sat a deer with broken back legs in the middle of the highway, his eyes rolling back in pain and distress. The phone tree goes from me to animal control to sheriff to his brother-in-law, who arrives in a camo truck, grabs a handful of antler, and drags the buck into the ditch. We did not wait around, but there are only two ways this could end: bullet to the head or a slashed jugular. All that morality trailing off into tall grass, a quick, shallow pool, gone in a day or two. Hunter gets meat, highway stays clear. Some believe we live in a computer simulation, Don't tell baby. I'm just going to work through all these post-it notes that are conveniently stuck in here. So this is, this is pretty self-explanatory, but this is called The Power in the Blood. The Power in the Blood. We knew Uncle Ivan had diminished, though he was still mowing his yard in May, like the old men do around here. He got worse, and then he was gone. The pastor opens Ivan's Bible and bookmarks fall out, and post-its and dog-eared pages tell him where to start and how to finish the service. I cannot keep straight who hugs and who shakes hands, awkward A-frames with cousins who don't, and get pulled into aunts who do. We try to prefer to stay at arm's length behind masks, find ourselves drawn in and caught up. We all have farmer eyes, downturned, an inner weariness and wrinkly from sun, look like we've been crying. Comfort in the quiet of a field adjoining this manicured cemetery, a silence everyone agrees on, except somewhere drones a tractor and wind rustles tall drying corn. He's going home, the pastor says, as the song kicks in. Precious memories, how they linger, how they ever flood my soul. In the stillness of the midnight, precious sacred scenes unfold. It's hard nowadays not to be from the internet and its eternal September of 1993. But I am from a place with a name, tiny and completely mapped the same way Capricorns come from a specific moment in space-time where everything stopped when stars aligned along trajectories and atoms coalesced into me were conjured. Every time I visit that little town, its amber grows a little thicker. Home less complicated than a world bumping up against everyone's large concern. Most roads around here I know like the back of my hand. I needed GPS to find this cemetery. That's how far away I live and how long since I've been back. My kin are missing fingers lost to the plow and long buried. I miss the sanctuary of this land as I steady myself, reaching out into largely empty air. No music at all, except the hum and whir of honest machines and the grace of being landlocked and broken by only so many precious years. Doing great. How is everybody?
Yeah, well, good.
Good. Good. It's good to be here. Let's see. Yeah, just work our way through all these. This is classic. I watch a lot of movies. I have friends back in Bloomington that work in the media school, teach in the media school, and like teach film. So I can't tell you how many movies I've seen, but this is a slice of that. This is called Classic. Every film and cartoon I watched as a kid, too young to get into a theater alone, was heavily edited for network television. The ceaseless blasting of Daffy Duck's face-off remained, but the bull never exploded. The Suicide Bear only aired once that I saw. All the light TNA commercial broken, and cussing badly dubbed because you couldn't say fuck and 6 other things. Sex was always off screen. Phoebe Cates out of the pool never happened from the neck down. James Bond was merely salacious like Pepe Le Pew. The girl in the after-school special who had sex for money learned a valuable lesson and went home. unlike rings busted on the news. Even The Omen on Sunday night left the unavoidable train sandwich to the imagination, frames excised to fill the prime time slot. Layers of mediated experience flayed apart by letterbox director's cuts, smearing screens in undiluted gore. When I thought I'd seen it all, Taxi Driver, 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, minus the slow dance with her pimp. Apocalypse Now, whittled down to 2.5 hours. Warner Brothers, Witch Doctors with nose bones stayed, but enough violence cut to make Bugs Bunny less cruel. My imagination was rated R, protected from the unreality of art, while the news filled the margins with a curated narrative and enough space for a word from our sponsors. Here's a short one. There's a few short ones sprinkled in here. Where was it? Oh, I lost it. There we go. The social safety net. People recite the same prayer every day, many times a day, for most of their lives, because it beats repeating the same old curse. But you've got to keep one on hand, because who knows? Let's take a break from that. And so I did a gig last night. I'm hoping to do some while I'm here. I was talking with Justin about this. I've been doing for about 12 years, I do poetry on demand, where I'm one of those guys that sits at an art festival or a farmer's market or some kind of public event with a typewriter, and I take requests from people who come by, and we sit down and we'll have a little interview for 5 minutes or so, and I make you go away and come back in 15 minutes, and I'll have a finished poem for you. And I take money for this, and made $83 last night in tips making poems, so which is pretty good. I also, Indiana Humanities also paid me, like they paid me a stipend and let me take tips too, which is pretty awesome. So, and I usually do this with a crew. Sometimes I do it by myself, but I usually assemble crews to do this with me, and a couple of good friends of mine who I inspired them so much that Adam actually wrote a chapter of his dissertation about poetry on demand and about me and all that, and then he and his partner Siren, they have started a typewriter repair business back in Indiana. They do like sales and service of typewriters, so that's their main gig now, which is cool. So now they're in charge, and all I do is just show up and use their beautiful machines and make poems. It used to be I would typewriters and stuff. It's awesome. So, but anyway, I just want to read one. I left all the others out in the car, but this is the main thing I'm going to work on while I'm here this week. Is I'm going to finally produce a couple of poetry on demand manuscripts. I've got about 500 or so poems that I've made over the last 10 or 12 years. And I've got most of them transcribed. There's like probably another 50 or so that I need to get out of notebooks and whatnot. Because I do a rough draft, I always do a longhand rough draft while I'm talking to someone and make notes. And then I draft a poem and then type it up. So it gives me an opportunity to edit. So I'm terrible about taking pictures of them. So I don't have very many pictures of them or any. This one's just a draft of one that I messed up on, but I can go back and like recreate them from the notes. So I'm doing some of that this week, but I also have an envelope of poems left behind, which are poems that people didn't come back for. They ordered one, they may have even given a donation or whatever, given a tip for it in advance, and then never came back from the poem. And I've got about 50 of those. Not all by me. So, I think most are by me, but a bunch of them are from people that came through. Like there's at least one in there from Will Gibson, who's from Eureka, California, and he's a touring poet, and he just happened to be on tour, and I managed to rope him in to do a day of poetry on demand at a festival I was working in. And then nobody came back for his poem. So this is like award-winning poet who shows up for one day and then has his poem left behind. So anyway, all that to say,
could you resell those?
What's that?
The poems left behind, could you resell those?
I'm fixing to, yeah. I'm
Like a
gonna-
little
I'm
box
gonna
over
make-
the
I'm
side?
gonna make a book.
You know, donations or something?
I'm gonna make a book and make people buy the book. That's a good idea, though. We occasionally, for a couple of events, we had what we called grab and go, where the crew that I was working with, I said, type up, make 20 poems in advance, and we'll just kind of set them over here. And this was a fairly posh event. We were charging $20 for a custom poem. If you wanted to grab and go, you can just flip through like you're looking for albums or whatever, and
Nice.
find one you like and give us $10 and go. So,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna try. This one's got a bunch of scribbles and edits on it, but I'm gonna try and make sense of it. I wrote this for Merritt
Okay.
Alden. So this is Legacy of Gut Check. The light approached slowly, but food already was scarce, so Dino kept hunting and foraging. The light grew bigger, neither sun nor moon, but Dino had instinct driving its tiny arms and mind of early Earth, and so kept hunting and foraging. 6 miles across, the light pushed atmosphere into an oven of velocity, shook mountains and canyons, rumblings, rolling, rumblings of the last prey. So Dino kept hunting and foraging. A great inhale as biosphere held its breath at impact. Giant bug swarms grew silent. Angry oceans ceased to roar. The great reset had come. A new long eon born. Hardwired with clear purpose, then no more hunting or foraging. Unprepared for what comes next. Survivors disappearing slowly into birds. I'm gonna do a couple more. Thank you all for being here, and thanks to Mark for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm looking forward to.
I was talking with Steve today about cicadas, and I told him if he coerced you, might read your cicada.
Okay. I did that. I did the cicada poem last year. Every poem. Well, I'll get to that.
No pressure.
No pressure, but I'll do it. Sure.
Plenty
I
of
always
pressure.
fulfill requests. Plenty of pressure. No, pressure is write a poem in 10 minutes based on.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. You're a brave man.
Here's my 5-year-old. Write a poem for whatever my 5-year-old says. Like unicorns, ice cream.
That sounds more fun than
It makes it good.
adults.
It is fun. It's a blast. Okay, so I'll read one more out of here, and I'll do the cicada poem. Thank you all for being here. I think I will do. I'll do the titular poem. How about that? I'll do Pity for Sale, and then we'll do because it's kind of naturey too. So I wrote the poem in the depths of the first few months. I think this was an April 2020 poem. So I do a 30 and 30 every year, which is you write a poem a day for the month of April for National Poetry Month. And I've been doing that for like 15 years. So I started doing it in November because that's NaNoWriMo. And I didn't know that poets were doing it in the month of April, so I just started doing a poem a day with my NaNoWriMo friends. And I started doing it. So I do it in April and November. But this was during lockdown, and I had been given a chapbook of Lawrence Ferlinghetti poems called Blast. I think it's called Blast, Cries, Laughs. I think that's the title of it. And Pity the Nation was in there. Pity the Nation is a fairly well-known Ferlinghetti poem, and it has a little epigram that says after Khalil Gibran. So this is Pity for Sale, after Ferlinghetti, after Gibran. Pity the bee who has no country, its fuzzy, swollen appetite and hardwired love of candy. Pity the window, gladly accepting so many waves of heat and hand, fogged with condensation of desire. Pity the vegetable in its untouchable packet, disguised as itty-bitty seeds that are mere possibilities. Pity the failed backup and make it new. Pity the ambulance, so lonely it stalks my next door neighbor twice this year alone. Alone. Pity the billionaires in love with zeros. No, f those clowns right in the zero. Pity the worker who identifies with a king. Pity the tree dragged down by sweet honeysuckle, the red buds pinking the woods, telling us it is time. Time. Pity the time it takes to feel, the time it takes to unfeel, to unlearn, to unlove, to unseal. Pity our ranks and forms, a slot for everyone when we all would be better off marked other. My country, 'tis not insane, but copes horrendously. Sweet land, sweet liberty. Ask any busy bee. So I wrote this. It's called Cicada Blues, Chorus 10 and 17. And I wrote this. Now it's 18 years ago for the 17-year cicadas when they came through in 2004. And I think those were worse than last year because in 2004, 2 broods came out at the same time, and Bloomington and like a big patch of the Ohio River Valley was the nexus of these 2 broods, and so they shut down parts of I-70 around Cincinnati because traffic couldn't drive through the swarms of cicadas coming out. Right. And cicadas are not like locusts. Locusts are very fast, very like focused, and cicadas just like buzz around like bumblebees looking for sex, and they just like and they make that little chattering sound, and like dogs snap them out of the air and chew them. And some guy in Bloomington went into anaphylactic shock because he read that you can saute them with some butter because they're like insects of the sea. They're like shrimp. Mm-hmm. But he did not realize he had or I think he knew he had a shellfish allergy, but he didn't realize that they're part of the crustacean family. So he actually
they're crustaceans.
They are crustaceans. They're part of the crust. That's why you can like popcorn shrimp. You know, you just kind of
that's ironic, isn't it?
pop them in there. Yeah, and they come out anyway. So
Crustaceans of the sky.
Crustaceans of the sky.
Or of the earth,
Of the
I
earth,
guess.
yeah.
You know.
So this is Cicada Blues, Chorus 10 and 17. Ooh, love to love you, baby. Ooh, love to love you, baby. Ooh, love to love you, baby. I will come back for you, baby. Maybe 17 years from tonight, but I will come for you. Up from the ground through a hole this big, and I'll crawl. I'll crawl across the lawn, baby. Drag my freshly hatched ass over sidewalks and quiet city streets just to get you to come to me. I'll climb the most convenient tree I find and shed this hard, crusty exterior and back out of my pupil state. And when I'm dry and strong enough and I unfurl my clear wings, I will call to you, call to you, call to you, call to you, and I hope you'll hear me among the million brothers in this humble acre alone, vying for your attention and that you'll come to me. Come to me now, baby. Please don't make my soul wait in the cold ground another 17 long years. Come land on my beach branch and we'll make sweet butt-to-butt love and place our progeny within the spent sapling soiled pulp under a heavy haze of June on a long-lost Indiana afternoon, and then together we'll die. Ooh, love you, baby. Ooh, love you, baby. Thank you. Yeah.
See, Tony, no pressure at all there.
I know.
One of the great things about doing this is I get to have conversations with people I don't get to see very often. And since Justin was here a little bit early today after like working at a school carnival,
Yeah.
we got to talk for a while, and I wish I could have been at that carnival. It sounded like a lot of fun.
It was dodging darts from kindergartners, so it was fun.
Sometimes,
Right.
yeah, sometimes we all have to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But, So it's good to talk today, man. It's like one of the best things. It's the only real reason to do this stuff, other than the fact that you have to, you know. So I just like to. Justin's got his beer ready. Did you crack that thing?
No, I'm gonna wait.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to do a perfect pour here.
Well, okay. Well, please welcome Justin Hamm. He's here with his book, Drinking Guinness.
So let me just prepare here, and while I do so, Mr. Reberg's over there somewhere. I want to say thank you to him. When you pop these things, you gotta let them go for a minute because there's like a nitrogen widget in there, and it kind of
That sounds like Jason Reberg's heartbeat.
the gurgle. So give this guy a good creamy pour here, and I'm going to enjoy it because this is the first live reading since this book came out. So big thanks to Jason. In doing this book, most of my back catalog now is published with Spartan Press. That makes me really happy. One reason it makes me really happy is I don't have to lug a bunch of other books around. Right, I got good stuff in one place. It means if you guys want to know a little bit about me as a poet, for $15 you can get the good stuff, and it goes all the way back. But in addition to that, it allowed me to make a statement with my poetry. It's kind of hard when your stuff's scattered in different books. You don't know who picks up what. Being able to structure it that way and put it together with new stuff is pretty cool. It's an opportunity to present yourself under one cover and make a statement and show how the work that you've done over a long period of time talks back and forth. So I appreciate that, and I'm super excited to do this in person. This is way better than doing it over Zoom. I'm so glad that we're here, and I can take a sip of this and give you guys some of the stuff out of this book. So.
The only Guinness you're going to get in 3 counties.
I believe it. This doesn't seem like you can just run up to the grocery store and grab some. So
now that the book is out, you don't have to talk to Jason Reberg anymore. It's
Right.
done.
So I'm going to do this a little differently. The whole purpose of this was to get into some of these poems that I'd written years ago, and they kind of died away. So I started doing a lot more events prior to the pandemic, and then I did a lot of events during the pandemic reading, and I found that I'd kind of culled down what I do to a set list, and it was good. It had a good mixture of things in it, and so I had successful events, and that's kind of addictive. But the problem with that is I cut off 80% of the work that I did. And so one of the reasons to put out this book was to get back into some of those poems that I'd forgotten about and hadn't performed. So I have a few that I'm going to read for you guys that I've selected. And then I think the second half, I think I'll just tell you how many pages are in the book, and we'll call out a random number, and I'll do that poem. So we'll see if they hold up, if they deserve really to be in there or not. So I'm going to start with some poems about marriage. One of the cool things about being a middle-aged guy now, I've been with my wife for 22 years. We've been married for 17 years. And I've made it to that point now where people ask me marriage advice. And so there were two things that I wanted. I wanted to be able to call the kids at school son in a real condescending way and be old enough for it to actually stick and mean something. So I accomplished that. And I wanted to be that guy that the younger guys came to for advice. So I'm going to read a couple of marriage poems to you. This one is called Marriage Detail Number 1. She wakes me unexpectedly in the dead of night, panicked, breathing hard, asking, "Is she talking to me? Is she talking to me?" "Who?" I say. "The doll," she says, "the doll." Then immediately begins to snore again, leaving me alone to contemplate that while staring into the darkness. This is a newer one. Marriage Detail Number 2. You have been fighting. At the restaurant, to taunt her, you lean over and whisper, "I'm just going to kill you with kindness." She rips into her lemon chicken, pauses, says, "That's good to know. I'm going to kill you with a knife." Then, that long moment of silence as you wait and wait, and finally realize she really isn't going to laugh. We'll do one more. And so, my wife's a good sport about these, but I'm actually going to read one now that's a little more serious. This is called The Inheritance, and it's the title poem of that book, which is also the second section now in this collective. The Inheritance. There is a photo of you in our first few years together when we lived in the woods and shared meat with the neighbors. You cradled a pumpkin in both arms like an infant. Your eyes then were so bright. 2. My mother had an instinct for violence. Over the years, I learned which words would cause the cold sting of her hand across my face. Then I said them and said them just to punish her with guilt. 3. I was 5 when my grandfather took me out to the farm where his brother slung hay and led me around on that star-kissed beauty of a horse. Grandpa was so gentle with me and with the mare who seemed half in love from the way she nuzzled his hair. And yet, who do you think taught my mother to hit? 4. If I loved you once for those bright eyes, I love you more now for everything that has made them a little tired. This is a story about how a cycle breaks, about how you taught me there are better rivers into which we can drown our ancestors' rage. This is a story about our confident daughters who know nothing of pain except the hairbrush through tough tangles before bed. As for me, I know nothing of what you have borne to get us here. But listen, I am trying. 5. Green fingers of grass reach up through late April snow. A good man we know lies unconscious in the hospital with a stroke. Our new baby would have been about a month old by now. We walk the gaudy aisles of the supercenter, my hand against the small of your back. Our girls alternate requests for all things sugar with questions about the nature of God. Here we are. We have done it. We have made it. And it feels so much like coming home when I stop to press my face into your hair. Should do one or two of the newer ones, and then we'll just open it up for requests of page numbers here. So a couple of years ago, I had the fortune to go to Iceland, and in touring Iceland and going around the ring road there, I had a pretty awesome experience. Icelandic horses are some of the most beautiful animals in the world. They're incredible. And in fact, Icelanders take them so seriously that it's against the law to own any other kind of horse than a purebred Icelandic horse, because they don't want to taint the bloodline. And they're 3/4 wild. They really pretty much roam everywhere. I mean, the roads are fenced off so they don't get hit, but other than that, they can go anywhere. And there's no kind of branding or anything. Everybody just knows their horse, and the horse knows them. And so, everybody respects that because of the high place that, the high regard that they hold them in. And so we had the opportunity out in the middle of nowhere to come across some Icelandic horses who were very friendly, and this poem goes back to that. In Iceland one afternoon, I touched a horse. A lovely, smooth, blonde-maned horse, friendly, muscular, half wild, and my heart/soul did not heal, not exactly, but I was pleased to find myself in something of a James Wright poem, thinking to hell with performance evaluations, weed whackers, and research on variable interest rates. Straight to hell with pistol-cocked egos and moral puritans, thinking as I petted his velvet forehead and stroked his tan muzzle, and he pressed into my armpit, that for a minute it was good to have no cell phone service, to stand and touch and breathe, to watch the sharp peaks pierce hazy clouds in the distance, to have immediate quarrel with neither humankind nor wind, to whisper soft and adoring and foolish American nonsense into the ear of this proud horse, this lovely, smooth, blonde-maned horse, this muscular, friendly, half-wild horse I was fortunate enough to touch one afternoon in Iceland. All right. 1 to 163. What do you guys want to hear? Shout out a page number and we'll find it.
157.
157. Uh-oh. These are my younger poems. The Sting of the Jellyfish. I inherited from my mother a midnight sort of eating disorder. I'm not diagnosed with it, but it's pretty clear. I have issues. I'll get up in the middle of the night and eat, and I have to really watch that. I'm a diabetic. It's something that I've struggled with my whole life. This is called The Sting of the Jellyfish. It's about that. In my daughter's drawings, we resemble a trio of jellyfish. Our pumpkin round heads without torsos, our long, inky legs squiggling playfully down the page before culminating in feet like oversized bread loaves. If we are indeed jellyfish, then we're clearly happy jellyfish, with our upturned mouths despite our eyes, which are empty, oblong, strangely akin in shape to gourds, potatoes, yellow squash. These are the figures that cover page upon page in my writing notebooks. They appear like trademark logos in the corners of my wife's grocery list. Sometimes they even add a dash of unintended variety to our comments on students' papers. And they are there too at night, taped to every surface I pass as I make my habitual visit to the refrigerator, a lonely search party of one, intent upon rescuing the evening's leftovers from a long life of isolation and mold. 3 happy, healthy jellyfish, one of us a little bit wider and rounder, a bit top-heavy even for a jellyfish, but all of us smiling, beaming really. And when I look at them, I understand this is the way my little daughter believes it will always go for her family. Sometimes that in itself is enough, so that I return the pork chop to its cold nest of rice, applesauce, and peas, re-snap the red Rubbermaid lid into place, and sneak back to bed with the burn deep in my belly. But sometimes nothing is enough, not even the memory of coming into the kitchen at first light, way back when I was 7 or 8, the scrapyard scatterings surrounding my mother as she lay face down, asleep again at the table, this a long time before the heart attacks. I'd whisper her awake, and she'd spring up of a sudden, embarrassed, the butter smeared all the way from her chin to that small place between her nose and her upper lip. Ask her what she was doing, and she would say she didn't know. And damn if that wasn't the truth of it. Once the devil turned loose of her, she could remember almost nothing. 77. In Little League once, this is a true story. In Little League once, after bobbling a slow bouncer, I made the mistake of rolling my eyes at our coach, who grabbed my collar and hissed his terrible coffee breath into my pale face until I began to sob and jerk like a puppet. When he let go and turned back toward the dugout, he was forced to look up and then look up again just to meet the hard eyes of the man whose right hand had just grabbed a hold of his collar. Mm-hmm. Hell, I don't know why I even told you that story just now. I don't condone collar grabbing, would prefer nobody ever grab anybody's collar, much less do whatever comes after that. I guess part of me just wishes every little boy had one chance to see his old man that way. Mm-hmm.
Justin, what did you say the last page was?
163.
That's what I want to hear.
Okay. Right. This is this will change the tone a little bit. This is the best poem I ever wrote about a jockstrap. So, whatever that implies may or may not be true. So, A real team effort. And here you'd gone and told yourself the morning couldn't possibly get any worse. Not after you realized you'd left your jockstrap swinging from your bedroom doorknob as you rushed headlong into the purple prairie morning, late again for the 6 a.m. travel bus and facing the prospect of a doubleheader behind the dish without proper protection. And that's when you see it. Your mother's souped-up Camaro comes peeling into the high school parking lot, skids to an action movie stop in front of the bus, and just as the driver jerks her into drive, now, incredibly, here is your old man sprinting in desperation, a thief or a madman, and there is something in his right hand, something which he has tucked against his side for protection, as if it were a football, or perhaps an enormous jewel of untold value. There comes a pounding, and the driver cranks open the side door with impatience, and then he has your jock, which he has just received from your panting, sweat-slicked pops, and he, the driver, is holding it out away from himself as if it might be radioactive. And now he's turning, handing it delicately to Coach, whose face goes cruel with wind sprints as he turns and passes it to Klein, the freshie, cursed to the front seats for having ears too sensitive for upperclassmen conversation. And Klein, the freshie, hands off to Castillo, the backup catcher who's gunning for your job. And Castillo, with a snicker, gives it to Rosenthal. And Rosenthal, God help him, holds the thing a second too long and lifts it toward his nose. Then Martin, Behringer, then Jonesy and little Nick. And so it goes, every man's hands on your jockstrap until it reaches that SOB Looney 2 seats up. Looney, who could reach right out and hand it to you himself, save you that final humiliation, but instead he passes it to the team manager, who is sitting in the seat directly in front of yours because she's beautiful and because you planned it that way. Now she turns, and there it is, dangling between you, frayed and a little off-white from 2 years of use. Through the straps you can see her eyes, two dark lakes where so many other sensitive boys have gone and gotten themselves thoroughly and finally drowned. You reach out to take what is yours and you wonder, is this what the old broken men think of when they stare out their windows into empty backyards, swigging their warm beers and sighing now and then?
So if that's the best poem about jockstraps, that implies that there are
Yeah, there could be a whole jockstrap book. So you just never know. All right, what do I got for time, John? We time for maybe two more?
Yeah, 2 hours fine.
Okay.
Sure, that's fine.
Right. What would you guys like to hear? Give me a number here.
111.
111. What'd you say?
That's a 42.
Okay, 111 and then 42. 111, from the poet. This is the opener from my very first full-length collection. Friend, I have only stopped in to briefly describe for you the bush-browed old German and the way he wrestled that ancient squeeze box into a slow swerving polka. Music for the barefoot widow to dance away the grief she'd long hidden behind eyes half painted like two deserted roadside attractions. And maybe to add a line or two about the shadow that seemed to rise from her skin like vapor, leaving behind some other, more hopeful being entirely. I might even say something of the after embrace, strangers before and after, holding on hard to ward off the end of times. But then, it's back to my own house. Someone I've hurt is waiting. 42. This is an interesting one. So this is actually, you would think that this one is more made up than any of them to a degree, but it's actually one of the most true. I met a fellow in Kingston, Arkansas at a gas station, and he'd been drinking, and he really wanted to talk to me and my daughters quite a bit. He was a songwriter, and he said he had lived in Nashville, and now he had like a ranch up over the mountain. And I didn't know how much it was true or wasn't. Then, so I was like, have you written anything that we would know? And he said he'd written all of John Denver's early songs. And I said, okay, that sounds believable, right? And so then he went in his car and he gave us his album. And of course he didn't write John Denver's songs, but you know, it actually, he was actually pretty good in like a very drunk sort of weird way. I mean, it was, you know, it was super interesting. So anyway, he was begging to be in a poem. And so this is Stranger at the Only Fueling Station in Kingston, Arkansas. He's a songwriter, he tells us. Used to sleep in Nashville, Tennessee. Now he keeps a ranch up over that middle mountain. Says he wrote quite a few of John Denver's early songs under a different man's name, which I know isn't true, but there's no doubting the whiskey barrels of grief behind his wide yellow eyes. My wife has passed 6 months, he tells us. When the 9 angels come to claim my bones too, I traded them my 2 teeth for a little more time to make up words in the dark. Cigarette smoke leaks from that very tooth gap as he laughs a bullfrog laugh and makes a guitar gesture down around his hips. Then his face slackens, his lips beginning to lightly tremble. They come from the mountain, he says, their faces cold as the moon's. I wasn't ready for them, he says. Jesus, he says, I was still sweeping her hair from the corners of our room. Let's do one more. So I like to do this one at a lot of readings now because during the pandemic, I think I really came to the realization of how much artists and poets mean to me. That was for a lot of time, even though we weren't able to gather in person, those virtual gatherings were some of the only things that I really looked forward to. You know, everything else seemed monotonous and the same, and it was beautiful to go out and be able to hear the words of other people, and it really sustained me. And so I wrote this poem. It's called Gratitude for the Poets, and I want to extend it to all artists because art was in the forefront again during the pandemic because I think people realized when there was nowhere to go and nothing to do how much they missed it. And so I would extend it to all artists. Thank you for the blood of peaches and the scarecrows boogieing in the breeze. Thank you for taking the time to polish the face of the moon. Thank you for your slant rhymes and your lovely lyric wind chimes. Thank you for the beers, the coffee, the warm cookies, especially the beers. Thank you, poets, for your postcards from the inner circles of hell and for speaking your particular spells into the shade of death. Thank you for Wednesday night church and all 52 days light can fall upon a leaf. Thank you for the broken pencil tips. Thank you for teaching me butterflies have hearts inside their wings. Thank you for sneakers on city pavement and for bottling the acid of all the wars I never had to fight. Thank you for the mangers in your lips and the tears in your guitars. Thank you for knowing and wondering, doubting, suggesting, insisting. Thank you for your loyal horses and your dark woods filling with snow. For your pool shark shirking school in the judgment of the midday sun. For the invisible drums thrumming beneath your pyrotechnical songs. For the 10-minute vacations and the laying on of hands. Thank you, poets, for giving love its own language. Thank you for giving language. Thank you for giving love. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention something before you came up, and I'd forgotten it. But the first time I ever heard you, you and I did not even know each other yet.
Mm-hmm.
And you read at the St. Louis Poetry Center.
Okay.
You were the only person there that didn't make me want to shove a big pen into my life, just to feel alive again.
Yeah.
So
I remember the event, and I tried to be more charitable than John if I could, but he's actually telling the truth. It was pretty bad.
yeah, it was.
So it was a rough one.
Thank you for continuing to toe the line, man. You know, I got to keep me going. So
Yeah.
I appreciate both you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate everyone who comes out and does these things. We're scheduled into basically the fall now. Our next meeting will be April 16th, and Caitlin will be guest hosting for me. It'll be Agnes's book launch. I cannot be here that day, but Caitlin will do a better job than me.
Oh, I don't know.
But I'm gonna call everyone up for the open mic after we take an intermission. So everybody take 10 minutes and buy books from these gentlemen. I'm gonna go down. I'll see you back here in 10 minutes. Thank you.
But like
And
the
they
second,
actually met a business
left,
lounge,
I
which
want to go
has
back
all
each
of
one.
that.
Because I don't get the more communication.
All right,
Yeah,
okay,
no,
guys,
we're
we're gonna
so
get the
it's
open mic
there.
going.
Yeah,
Appreciate that warm welcome. I was just gonna say.
yes, and so
Let's talk to Jimmy about that.
Yeah.
But he has no time to call.
We have a big announcement after the open mic, which I'm not gonna tell you about until we're done.
oh,
I know. I'm anticipating. I'm excited. Sorry.
Much like my 6 hours of anticipation for Tony's arrival. Okay, anyone who wants to be on this list that did not sign up, I've got one person on here right now.
Put me on there, John.
I got you.
Cool, thank you.
I wrote your name as Judge instead of John. Sorry.
Are you gonna lay down some poetry for us tonight, Reberg?
Yeah, that's a good question. Reber,
I
are
know.
you going to?
Figured you just assign me a role or a
Hey,
task.
man, I gave you my hamburger. I think like you should
Oh,
offer you
Yeah.
I'm forever indebted.
That's
Yeah,
true.
he'll pay. What's Wimpy say? He'll pay you on Tuesday.
yes.
I could get
I'm
I could
glad
get
they
home
paid
tonight.
Tuesday for I forgot today.
Yeah.
All right. So I will call Jason Reber up last, but first we will call up my present next door neighbor, Mr. Steve Bridges.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you all, yeah. Applause first, please. It's an honor to read with you all, to come after you all. Appreciate it. See if I can find this. I don't have my paperwork is dreadful. I'm just gonna read one, it's a little bit longer, but then that way we can just, get on to the next person. And I'm dedicating this to my late friend, Marnie Weldon. She died in April 1st, 50 years ago. I got the snakes in me tonight. Oh boy. I sure got the snakes in me tonight. Usually they're just odd ducks on a quiet pond, sleeping in the sun, attracting only dragonflies and cicadas. But tonight they're writhing deep in me, and I see my dead buddies drift past me like it was high noon on Boot Hill. They're green to the gills, back to nature like they always dreamed. And me, left here with a cinematic memory of that dark beauty hanging from that unseen apple tree on that real first day of Ohio spring. I see them all now, waiting around just outside the alley lights at the stage door, waiting for the show to end or to begin. But no flowers for the showgirls, yous guys. Those party girls, I loved you so much. The pale sockets of bone around your dark eyes, visible even from the proscenium shadows. Your legs smooth and full in those moonlit silver stockings. You sure pack a punch, laughing in my face. I couldn't give you up once, but no, that's not quite right. I couldn't keep you, even if you would have me. I turned my face away so many times from the lepers and the junkies nodding off in doorways, them not even noticing me as I slithered by. I've spent so many years just phoning it in, barely making the bus on time of a morning, and not even caring, and yet knowing full well the white sand was running out between my fingers, back onto the black tar and plastic trash-covered riverbank, smelling of ammonia and fish death. Everyone else got on our big bus, sitting way up front. There was no one in the way back with us poets, packed in tight as fresh sardines behind the cleaning ladies. We're on our way down to the 12th Street pawn shop to get our switchblades on a hot, windy Saturday after the matinee. All our good intentions just won't flush, amigo, as they fly out the half-open bus window that just can't close, thick diesel fumes and golden pollen pouring in. The day takes over just like the stupid buzz you get from that generic antihistamine, a third-rate high at best. But still, you gotta have it. There's nothing worse, I kid you not. I kid you not, nothing worse than 40 straight days of meltdown post-nasal drip, 13 or 69 years down the line, snorting dust and doggy dander day in and day out. It must be some super bad karma for them to just go ahead and push that button in the generic fabrication shed, just a short hip hop down the super slab from here. When your number comes up, oh well. No chance now to trade in that gray hair chulo and throw in that sneezing too, son, just for your asking. I know. It fills my flugelhorn with great sadness, but you can't have one without the other. All that money and time with certified experts I pissed away trying to find a bit of relief. Why, if I had $100 bill for every Tom, Dick, and Harry promising me some pie in the sky, blah, blah, blah. Mama tried to help out, but she's gone now too. We had so much fun, yucking it up on the porch, always with at least one cool gallon handle of pop-off vodka on hand. But between you and me, all that shit is the same, really, no matter how you mix it. We gathered around to watch the privately funded governmental tragicomedies every day for months. It was just a dream out there on the porch of the old farmhouse, waiting for the operatic world to collapse before our bright eyes, right there in front of us, inside that tiny magic box, like tonight and every night, so you know it must be true. Maybe in the next episode we'll finally get our revenge on those self-righteous perps. I want the truth, and I want those rat bastards to pay. I still have that broken down porch sofa and the allergies to boot, but no vodka, alas, this late in the last act of the fourth quarter. The ice is melted way down in the bottom of the picnic cooler, sitting here by me on the porch in the sun. The odds are pretty good as dawn approaches that I will get up late again and find this lovely missive to me on the floor by my bed, having forgotten it entirely. I will surely marvel at its truancy, its length, and its demeanor. And why this dawn in particular, and not 37.5 years ago, when it might have made a bit more of a difference, I might ask. A nice note and a cute card to my younger self, sent by way of some momentarily open wormhole in me now, sent to me then. Indeed, as I recall now, under oath and no duress, I did receive it. I remember it now, clear as a bell, heard loud and clear on the death march of life. But the note turned out to be only some drunken scrawl on the inside cover of a matchbook, written with a pencil stub, by God. I saw it from above, for a second only, as I stepped over it, down there in the gutter, in the rain, with the leaves and trash rushing by, on my way to this appointment now, across the busy street of time. Thank you.
I had to look at it too because I forgot you put Judge.
Judge. That's just your first name, Judge.
All right. All right.
Come on, Judge.
So I guess you already know. We're going to welcome up John Clayton.
The book, John, I need to sit there.
I certainly can.
That's sturdy. I guess I better not hang on to it.
Didn't we talk about people falling down earlier, John?
We did, and I want to avoid that when I come. Well, I've decided to do something different tonight. That is to pull all this stuff that you put away and never do. And some of it because it's offensive, and some of it because it just never made its way anywhere other than here. So, some of it you hear for the first time, some of it you may have heard before. The first one, I'm going to read from Mark. Mark has some experience with Florida bars. And
That's fine.
Yeah.
May have some memories may have just popped through there.
Guilty.
I think that was a.
this one's called the Fisherman's Shack.
I like this one.
The Fisherman's Shack sits at the end of the canal under a stand of gnarly black oak trees. Looks like chicken coops pulled together, says my pal. People get so drunk in here, they walk on their knees. The place really is the pits. Dave likes it because Shelby has big tits. Craig and Donnie are supposed to be here, but they won't come, never fear. The boardwalk on the way in is squishy and a little weak. It's dark inside, so watch your feet. The place really is a dump. Everything in here is 100% junk. Climb on a bar stool, hear the clack of men playing pool. Shelby is slinging beer in this place and has a menacing snarl on her face. West Virginia on the bar stool tries to flirt but doesn't have the tools. He gets a negative response instead. She says, "You're an inbred." "No, I ain't. I'm smarter than that." Shelby got the response she wanted and smirks like a cat. She's just mad. Her tips have been bad. Sure enough, Donnie and Craig never do show. Dave's friend Jay slamming beer like he has to go. As long as you're buying and the beer's free, Jay'll keep drinking. No time to pee. Youngling, Bush, Miller Lite. I think Shelby wants to fight. Oh, good. It's 5 o'clock. Her shift ends. Here comes Trisha and her work begins. There's an alligator on the ceiling walking around with a mannequin's head in its mouth looking down. 2 black-tipped sharks hang from a monofilament line, grasping a hand and a foot on which they dine. Damn, I forgot to smoke. so damn thick it makes you choke. The haze is not purple, it's definitely blue. When you smell an ashtray, that will be you. There's entertainment, a jukebox machine. Damn, this place is dirty, it has never been clean. There's a dude fingering a guitar who looks really high. Better hit the bathroom before I say bye. One door says gulls, the other says buoys. The smell when you open the door tells you where you're at. Damn, I'll be glad to get out of here, I'll say that.
Thanks, Judge.
Was that Key West?
No, that's Hudson.
Hudson.
I had Key West in my mind
Yeah.
too. That's kind of what I was seeing.
I think everybody thinks of bars in Florida thinks about Key West.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wes.
I've got a
They're a little more green.
I've got a friend
little
who's
more rural.
a poet and an attorney who's 90 years old who owns a bar in Key West.
Oh, nice. Cool.
She's a tough old lady.
Good. Gotta be.
I told you these poems jump around. This one is called Guard Duty, which I don't know who's been in the military, but if you've ever been in a combat zone, you have guard duty, you will know this poem. Only those who have experienced it, only those that have to get it right, only those who have felt her hard hands on their throat, cold and tight, that raises goosebumps, that knots the muscles like a rope pulled tight. The rifle is cold even though it's hot. I have to stay still, not make a noise, however slight. Sleep, not in this life. Her name is Fear, and she will be with you until light. Some of you may have heard this poem. Over at Westphalia, there's a zebra. And when you sit in the dentist chair, you can look out and see the zebra in the bump in the field behind you. So, as I sat waiting in the dentist chair one day, this is what came. It's called Zebra from My Dentist's Window. A stranger in a strange land. The zebra stands next to the barn, staring forlornly toward the hills, alone, straining to see another zebra. A stranger in a strange land. Is the thunder of the wildebeest a real memory or only in the genes? Knowing the fences that imprisons him offers no protection from lions. A stranger in a strange land. Born in Missouri, having never seen or smelled a lion, a jackal or a hyena, the zebra still worries about them. A stranger in a strange land. Still has nightmares about bloody muzzles, white teeth closing on the throat, flesh being ripped from the flank. On the African plain, stripes confuse, they do. Is there many, or is it just you? The white and black, uneven bands cause horseflies to crash land. That zebra may feel uneasy today, but not doing bad if I had to say. At least, as I sit in this chair, they're coming for me. It's a Novocaine needle I have to see. A stranger in a strange land. This last one I'm going to read is, I used to like to fish in Canada before I got old and the cold hurt my bones too much. And the lakes up in northern Manitoba, you'll have a lake, and then there'll be a river that drains from one lake into the next lake, and it's usually, the lakes are like on different levels, so there'll be a stretch of rapid water. And one of the places I like to fish for walleye is called Tramping Lake, and then there's the lake downstream is called Wacusco Lake. And in between there's a stretch of water, not very long, but it's really must be 30 or 40 feet in difference in level, so it has really a fierce waterfall. This poem is called Wacusco Falls. completely different. Grandfather, the wind is blowing. I hear it in the white beech birch trees. No, little one. See, the leaves are quiet, but they're roaring, and the loons are taking flight. The noise must be the wind that I hear in the trees. There's no storm. The morning sky is glowing. Gentle now, little one, put the birch bark to shore. Just around the bend, there's a prize in store. But grandfather, I'm tired and I want to ride. It's so far to the other side. Sorry, little one, we must walk from here. It is only the grass river and there's nothing to fear. The banks are narrow and it tumbles over rock. The Great Spirit gave us the roar so we would know when to knock. Only the foolish fail to heed the warning. Do not mistake that sound for a stormy morning. Many a young man thought it was a wind that blew, and on the rocks in the grass river smashed his canoe. Surely one should listen to the loony lover's calls, but always walk around while Peaceville falls.
Get out of your way here. All right. I am going to call up Caitlin Jones last this evening, but before we do that, we have a surprise for her. So I'm going to bring that in right now. Ed.
Thanks for being here, John. How are you?
Good, how are you, John?
Good. Hey, John, can I get you back up here, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a big deal for us.
Yeah.
Big deal, so pay attention, please.
Where would you like me?
Somewhere comfortable for
In
you,
the
sir.
photo.
Nice to meet you.
Caitlin, that's for you.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Okay, I'm gonna back up a little bit and give you a number 2, John.
What's that?
If you wouldn't mind sliding next to the mayor. This is Josh Seaver, the mayor of Belle.
Here you go.
If
I can do this. That's
There
probably
we go.
easier.
There you go.
I love this.
That's great.
Caitlin, congratulations. You're the next official Belle Pull-Up Laureate.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
very
Congratulations to your wife on that
It
appointment.
was Ed's idea to
Right
do
here.
that first and then have you read poems.
Oh, cool.
We're proud of you.
She's high.
That's
Yeah.
good. We need it.
Fantastic. Yes.
See you later.
I'll work it out.
That was the plan. Like, Ed got a hold of me last night and we.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Josh.
Oh, no problem.
Appreciate you, man.
We'll stay here and listen.
Oh, yeah.
I was summoned to
You have
the
to say it if
open
you
mic
like.
now.
Yeah.
He sent me messages last night. He was like, "You're gonna be at the open mic tomorrow night." And I was like, maybe. And he goes, "You're gonna be at the open mic tomorrow night, right?" And
Just be brilliant, Caitlin. That's all we expect.
Yeah.
No pressure.
That's all you
No
got.
pressure. You got this.
well, thank you very much. It's an honor to step in behind Judge Clayton. Those are some pretty big shoes to fill. He is an excellent poet, and I will do my best.
Yeah.
And now that I'm shaking, I have 3 pieces I would like to share tonight, and the first one is kind of apt. It's called "They Say I'm Not a Writer."
Yeah.
They say I'm not a writer, and no one will ever read what you write. I counter with maybe so, but I'm not just a writer. I put pen to paper and emotions flow like paint on canvas, an artist for the visually impaired, a story weaver, a poetic truth sayer, an ally for the broken and damaged. I'm a stanza wizard capturing moments of time and lyrical universes of their own. So no, I'm not just a writer, I'm so much more. Also, before I forget, and Ed yells at me, this is from my first
Right.
collection. I published this book, Deep Breaths, back in August. I was so excited to get it in hand, and Ed was so grateful to wait almost 3 years to get it, because I decided to up and get my master's degree in the middle of working on it, and everything just kind of stopped while I got my degree. So it is published by Happy Duck, and I'm very proud of this book. The next piece I'd like to share out of it is called False Beauty. My ribs are the bars on which my soul rattles the tin cup, begging for the currency necessary to be called beautiful. My cellulite-covered thighs stand as the billboard proclaiming my status as a fashion pariah. The beauty magazines who set all standards by which women must appear will say, Photoshop can only do so much. And even then, your body will never be accepted as beautiful. The stretch marks, visual representations of the emotional wounds caused by overeating due to harm perpetuated by others, saying you'd be beautiful if you just lost the weight. Fat is not beauty, says society. My soul continues panhandling, seeking the currency that pays for people to see the beauty within. But my fat rolls act as a shroud that society can never see past. I'm going to apologize in advance. I wrote this at 4:30 today, so I didn't have a chance to clean it up. So I'm probably going to stumble over it just a little bit. But this is called Planting Gladiolus in the Cemetery of Misconceptions. And it will be in the new book.
Okay.
All right. Your hand gently brushes against the petals, skimming the surface, acknowledging more than the colorful array of flowers, standing tall and defiant. A stark contrast to what was a barren landscape dotted only by perfectly symmetrical granite headstones at one point in your life. These beauties are planted in the fertile soil of all the lies you believed you had to believe because others forced you to conform. Over the years, you've chipped away all the parts people grafted to your soul of who they wanted you to be and planted them here. You left these discarded pieces and gave each a marker with a simple granite stakes. I'll get it. You marked each with a simple granite marker stating what you left behind. Words such as weakness, ugly, stupid, unworthy, selfish, miserable, engraved to show what you never were, but others forced you to believe. Creating a cemetery of all the misconceptions others believed of you, misconceptions you believed of you, or misconceptions your mind forced you to believe, thinking others thought them too. Lies nonetheless. Some of these discarded pieces have long since been laid to rest and are barely visible, a hint of granite peeking just above the flowers taking over the landscape. Flowers thriving on the nutrients provided by decaying misconceptions. They are hope and healing personified, a landscape depicting the beauty of the person you are truly meant to be. Your hand shuts the hard iron gates of the cemetery and locks it for the last time. It is as if you have left them all and you are not there, and it is as if you have left them all those things that you are not. And as you turn and the sun shines brightly upon your face, you notice that the gladiolus has grown along the path leading towards self-acceptance. Shaking in the corner.
I'm just going to tell everybody what the letter in the frame says. Basically, that Caitlin will be serving as Belle's City Poet Laureate now until the end of 2024. Typically, it would be 2 years, but it took us a little bit to get into this year to get to that point. So she'll be serving until time, and I'm sure she'll do a fantastic job. And you nearly made me tear up a little bit. It means a lot to me too, and it's wonderful that you're doing this, and we thank you. I don't know if the mayor's still there, but Josh, thank you for coming in today. I don't know if you left, but we appreciate that too.
Hey, John, may I say something?
You may, Mark.
We also celebrate Caitlin because Barb's Books and Friends of Belle Library and Belle Book and Candle have all hosted Caitlin. So she started her journey not too long ago, being here and never reading in front of a group before, and never had been published. She has been through the entire journey with our agencies, and it's lovely.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about this is that, like, from my time doing it, from John's involvement, now Caitlin's, like, it's a very, not just a very diverse group of people, which we are, but it's a very diverse group of writers. And I think that says a really nice thing about Belle. It really does. And hopefully this is a program that will continue on for long after I'm gone, and I've joined the future dead by that point.
If I could say just one thing.
You may.
Okay. Something that a lot of us overlook, but I try to reinforce it to everybody in the town and everybody who comes here. We have all these different entities, but really none of these would have been possible without Mark McLean and Tony Hayden from OAC. They're really the foundation that has really helped change my town for the better, something that I never thought it could have been. So I owe them both a deep debt of gratitude, and I think everybody who's a lover of the arts does as well. So thank you guys very much.
Your town? Which one of us is in for the day? Come on.
We can do this.
All right. So with that, I am going to make him come up here before we finish this evening out. I let this man eat my hamburger earlier today. All right, Jason, come up here, read me a poem.
I didn't ask you for the damn
Well,
And he's wearing his fedorable.
you didn't verbally say it, but...
This is called Wild Circumstances and Poor Decision Making. There was a time not that long ago, back when I still couldn't get enough of anything. When you could never have convinced me things could get any lonelier or more cosmically, existentially bleak and bottomless than a sleepless summer night in a small town you thought you'd left behind you a long time ago, but never really quite escaped from, no matter how many miles and years you put between it and you. And now you've somehow got yourself knocked back into its gravitational bonds again by the classic and ever-reliable combo of wild circumstance and poor decision-making. And there's the lone hometown hot rod hero still out there after all the years, squealing away from a traffic light that has barely turned green, we can imagine, a couple of streets over. And then a truck out on the highway trumpets its response in solidarity. And maybe even a train somewhere way off gives its horn a quick little Morse code tap. And then it all settles back down to nothing but a dog barking down the street, wondering what all the excitement was about in the first place. And of course, you've already found that aimlessly surfing around for something on the TV or the radio to save you, even if but for the moment, only makes it all worse somehow.
Do whatever you want, man. That poem was delicious.
Oh.
For the love, Robert, for the love.
We've
Never ever been there.
It's called Skipping Your 10-Year High School Reunion, which was a long time ago. But then there was that time me and Big Earl Corby were out there on Highway 40, driving around just like old times in his primer gray pickup truck that was somehow still holding together and running after all the years with a 12-pack of Schaefer or Black Label or one of the other old reliables. One of those basic standard issue Panasonic boom boxes, also somehow still holding together and working despite the wear and tear that everybody had at some point back in junior high or high school in the late 80s before presumably moving on to bigger and boomier things. And an old cassette tape, once again, still somehow working despite the odds, with Black Flags Rise Above on one side and the dead Kennedy's Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables on the other. And we flipped that tape 4 or 5 times by that day, just retracing the old back roads we used to explore way back when we had nothing better to do. And yes, sir, it was damn near like old times. it's called Pine Box and a Shallow Grave. I'm trying to think if there's anything shitty or cheaper you could bury somebody in. Pine Box would be a good way. Chipboard, I think, was what they really get to like the
Cardboard box.
You can't. I
Pine
don't
box.
think
It's
you.
When they
Pine
bury
box.
you in a pauper's grave,
Chipboarding where the
they'll,
chipboard.
it's almost like styrofoam, man.
That's what I was wondering. I need to change
Yeah,
the name of it. 'Cause I just
styrofoam.
couldn't think if there's like the one,
Mhm.
the poorest of the poor. You don't get you get a glass jar with a number in it.
It has
So,
that
damn,
stamp.
that's depressing.
It has that stamp that says "Made in Joplin, Missouri."
It does. Yes, it
I was
does.
gonna say these are great poems. I know a place where you might want to read them.
That's right. Pine Box in a Shallow Grave. It's when you get the blues so damn bad that every song you listen to, no matter the beat or the groove or the tune or what it's about even, is still somehow then and there the saddest, most sorrowful and lonesome song you've ever heard. And you catch yourself sniffling and watering up a little and thinking about your own weathered steamer trunk full of troubles and woes. And there's probably nothing you could do to turn this increasingly whiskey-fueled ship around tonight. So you just better ride it out and hope you don't start listing too close to the jagged rocks of morbid contemplation of one's own mortality and the no doubt tragic and lonely demise that awaits for you, or whether or not who, if anybody, would even remember or care enough to show up to the goddamn funeral anyway. So maybe it would be just best if they put you in a pine box and a shallow grave in a potter's field somewhere outside of town with a number instead of a name. A grave that no one will ever think to visit or keep clean. Yeah, those kind of blues. Still in my vein, you're laughing. Last one for,
I was just starting to get happy.
I'm sorry. Well, just when you,
I asked for it, so it's my fault.
This is for John Dorsey. It's called For the Record. Dear John, I never said your poems were depressing. I said I thought you might have invented a new literary subgenre. Midwestern Gothic horror poetry. What one might imagine some academic type describing as grim and gritty little vignettes and harlequinades, the day-to-day horror that lives in the corners of our eyes right under our noses, and almost never makes the front page or local television news, wherein few of the characters make it out of the poem completely whole or unmaimed in some fundamental way, and yet the reader is still finding within themselves faint traces of nervous laughter that would otherwise be situationally inappropriate. But then again, who amongst us hasn't blundered up a harmless little chuckle now and then at the thought of an old man slamming his thumb with a hammer, or a young girl falling down an open manhole from which she would most likely walk with a slight limp for the rest of her days?
I think about those things every day. All right. With that, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Like I said earlier, come out on August 16th at 6 p.m., which is a Saturday. Agnes will be doing her book launch. Caitlin will be your host for that day. I will be back here hosting on April 20th when Damian Rucci and his crew people come in for what I'm referring to as the New Jersey Poetry Invasion. But again, thank you guys. I love you. It means a lot to me that you would come out. Now go get drunk. Go eat some chicken wings, whatever it is you're going to do. I will see you soon. Thank you so much.